There's a new street fighter on your windowsill. The weapon is peace, the word is chill.
Hello there, gang, and welcome to another episode of Displaying Model Behaviour, the Earth's mightiest action figure video podcast. So take off your pants, crack a beer, and get back here! Gotta go! Bloody variants. See, this is what happens when you cut funding to the TVA. Anyway.
There's a new street fighter on your windowsill. The weapon is peace, the word is chill.
Well, what did you expect? That's my Loki impression, and this is my smooth face. How's that for a bit of a change? I was getting too fluffy. I like to go from one extreme to another. That's just who I am. Although I must say, I do feel rather naked without my baseball cap. Whew, there we go. All is right with the world. Let's do this Spider-Verse style one more time. Welcome everyone to another episode of Displaying Model Behaviour. So take off your pants, crack a beer, and let's talk toys. Guys, we are continuing my countdown of my 100 personal favourite toys on my shelves. So let's not stand on ceremony, Mr. Wayne. Let's get to the next entry on the list. And this one is a doozy, folks. We have a big, chunky, hot toy of battle-damaged RoboCop. This is beautiful. It's heartbreaking. Look at those eyes. That's just captured incredibly. This is where Hot Toys just stand head and shoulders above so many others when it comes to recreating facial features. It's the glint, the tingle in the eyes. I don't know how they do it, but it looks human. It's so cleverly done. But then on top of that, just all the detail that goes into this figure. You know that they must have spent countless hours poring over the movie to get every single ding and dent and bullet hole and even smear and scrape and oil slick and just everything you see in the film is recreated on here beautifully. And of course, this is going to be one of my favorite figures. This is one of my favorite movie franchises and characters. But the fact that they made him so perfect is just breathtaking. So the face is obviously the big piece that really kind of stands out. What's great though also, you can pop this head off and you can place it on the regular RoboCop as well, because very often you'll see in other films or media, he'll be in his docking station chair, for example, with his mask off. So you can recreate those kind of looks. That's really great. But you can see also, you've got the bullet hole here, which is just so well recreated. And even just his expression. This stoic Peter Weller look is just so beautifully captured. I've got to admit, when I was thinking of doing silly things with my money, I was really tempted to get Peter Weller to do a cameo for Model Behaviour. I so wanted him to be like, "Hi, this is Peter Weller, and you're watching Displaying Model Behaviour. So keep watching." I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to ask him to say, but something like that. And then I saw how much Peter Weller was charging for cameos, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just admire that creator from afar. But yeah, he's captured beautifully here, and just all the detail on the back of the head. You've even got, like on the original RoboCop, the pistons in the ankles that actually work and move. So incredible. He has the Auto 9 gun as well, and you can actually flip open his leg holster and place it in there, and you can pose him sort of half drawing it. It's wonderful. He comes with an assault cannon as well. He's got the Cobra assault cannon, the little jars of baby food. They thought of everything. He actually came also in a 2-pack with human Alex Murphy, which I was tempted to get, but again, it was a slight bridge too far financially, and I thought, no, you know what? We just want battle-damaged RoboCop. So side by side with regular RoboCop, this guy's just so good. Let's go now from one brain in a mech suit to another brain in a mech suit. A slightly more cartoonish and child-friendly character, we have Krang from the NECA animated TMNT line. And this was the guy who made me want to collect the animated turtles. Damn you, Krang, you have cost me so much money. but he's worth it. When I saw this guy announced and previewed, I was like, oh geez, that's the cruncher. That's done it. I'm gonna have to start collecting this line because he's just got everything. You watched the cartoons when you were a kid, and even if you couldn't remember it by complete recall, you know what it should look like, and then it's reproduced here with everything on it the way it should be. The little dots on the sides, the screws, the exhaust port on the butt, even this little bar here, which I've been told is quite fragile, and I cringe anytime I stand him up. I'm like, please don't fall backwards and break. Speaking of falling backwards and breaking, he has the little antenna on the top, which NECA were at least good enough to actually give you a spare one, because they're like, this dude's gonna break. At least they were pre-prepared for the breakages. But then we've got little Krang in here with his joysticks, and his joysticks are movable. He can move them around like he's piloting the robot. There's so much great stuff here. The exhaust port, the ventilation on the back actually is ribbed, you know, so you can feel the lines there. It's not just painted on. He's got his sort of Frankenstein monster sort of kind of zombie type stance there. There's silly little red booties, and again, the actual lines of the detailing, like where this suit has been stitched and bolted together, it all just looks so great. And then he has so many accessories with a ball and chain, a saw hand. He's got a towel that he can wrap around himself and his head like he's coming out of the shower. So ridiculous, so stupid, but so much fun. This is the guy that made me want to collect NECA Turtles, and I don't regret it for a second. Let's get a little dark and sinister now with a more modern figure, which is the most recent Carnage from Marvel Legends. This is kind of absolute Carnage, or at least one of his forms in that story. He changes forms a lot in that, so this is early Carnage, but he doesn't have the absolute Carnage head. Why? Because I actually took it off and replaced it with the generic one, because normally whenever I get a new version of a figure that represents a different version of that character, I want to have it for the variety, but I had him on the shelf with the absolute Carnage with the more sort of angular jaw and the swirly head design, and I was like, I just don't love him. I just wasn't getting anything from him. Then I put the classic Carnage head on, and I was like, yep, there it is. There's the guy. So, okay, I have an extra classic Carnage. It's surplus to requirements, but it doesn't matter because now I really appreciate this figure for all its glory. So, first of all, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. This is a widely accepted great figure, and it should be, and I'm so happy that I can now appreciate it. You've got the sculpting of all the black on him. This ain't just paint. This isn't just a basic buck that's had paint flicked on it. All the black lines are individually sculpted on here, so they're raised up like veins coming out of his body. That is freaking cool, alright? And then you've got these incredible, I think people have called them sort of rosebush type tendrils, and I think that's a great way to put it. They are actually not spiky to the touch. I mean, come on, let's not exaggerate here. This isn't the Marvel Select anti-venom, but they actually feel like they would be nasty. Like if this was a real character, you'd be like, oh, that's not nice. This Carnage looks spiky. He looks like a rosebush, like it's threatening. Then you got the huge big hands with the knife fingers and the big white Mark Bagley eyes. This is another Mark Bagley style head design, which is just great. Then we've gone controversial. I know it's not to everyone's tastes, but we have the toes on the symbiotes. Some symbiote people like toes, some like the flat feet. I'm a toe guy. When the symbiote doesn't have to impersonate Spider-Man's costume, why wouldn't it actually just have toes for a real organic creature? You know, we have toes for a reason. They help you grip. So this look is great. Now Carnage looks like a real monster, and oh my goodness, I love having him on my shelf. Let's go back over to Star Wars now with the Mandalorian, Din. I'm never going to get it. Jindarin. I could just read it and commit it to memory, but it's more fun to just struggle on camera. Look like an idiot. Why not? The Mandalorian, let's go with that. Mando. That's the easier one to remember. This is the second of my 2 Black Series figures. Don't need any more. That's it. No more Black Series, thank you. I've got it. I've got 2 bounty hunters. I don't even need to get the original trilogy. I don't need another line. But I thoroughly enjoyed the Mandalorian TV show, so I wanted to represent the 2 bounty hunters. And Mando here is great. And when I got him, I was like, gosh, I could get more Black Series characters because they are nice. This is really, really good. He's got the separate... He comes with a backpack as well. A backpack with booster jets, but I like having the cape on here. I think it just adds sort of more to him. And I have Boba Fett in his backpack flying, so it's nice to have one on the ground, one in the air. And with his blaster pistol, with his musket sniper rifle type gun, he just looks terrific. I was tempted to get his opening costume. They're all kind of mashed up, botched together costume, but this is the most iconic look, so I'm definitely happy to have this one. Very tempted to source myself a baby Grogu, but they seem to be really expensive, and I'm like, oh, the money could be better spent elsewhere, but it would be nice to have a little Grogu next to him. But still, the Mandalorian helmets are just cool. These visors, these Centurion type looks, it just looks badass. Same with RoboCop, the visor, that kind of thing. It's wicked. I love what they've done with Mandalorian. Some episodes were a bit hit and miss, but on the whole it was solid and harkens back to good Star Wars. So I'm looking forward to see where they go with the TV shows. But definitely they're going to open the doors for more figures. And if the figures are of this type of quality, then I think a lot of people are going to be very happy.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's Big Time Badass Spider-Man.
I think it must just be indoctrination. Probably. I've just watched so many Big Time Badass Spider-Man videos that now my brain is like, we love Big Time Badass Spider-Man. But we do, because it's bright, luminous green. Who did I have on the last list? Radioactive Man. So of course, it's this like glowing Tron kind of look. This is very Tron. In fact, this came out at about the same time as Tron did, and I think Marvel did a whole bunch of Tron covers. So this is very much that kind of inspiration. I'm not saying it's a copy though, it's just, it reminds me of that. But bright green eyes look awesome. I'm really surprised they haven't given us variants of this yet with the blue look and the orange look, because at different times, I think it might have just been covers, or maybe it was actually in the comics. These change different colors, I think maybe depending on what type of stealth he is using. So that's kind of clever, and it would be the easiest repaint in the world. But still, all the little bits of design that you might not think twice about, like the little bit of green on the toes there, the circles on the hands, they're small touches, but put together, they just look great. I love the pose that I finally stuck with. So there's an excuse to see the circle on the hands and everything that just adds up together to make this a really, really good figure. Kind of underrated. Was it underrated? Nah, it's not underrated. People know that it's kind of fun. But if you don't have it and you see it randomly, you're on the fence, I absolutely highly recommend Big Time Badass Spider-Man. Another relatively new addition to my collection is the Dark Knight Metal Grim Reaper Batman. Should have double checked the name before making this video, but I didn't, and now you get to see me fumble again. At least this isn't a Jin moment, but I know it's Batman. But I just forget. It's not Hellbat, because that's the one I just did with the metal suit and the wings. But I just gonna miss with my brain what they specifically refer to this Batman as. But at least I know, because you guys filled me in on the comments. This is a Batman who died. So this Batman died, and he's got the Black Lantern ring. Is that right? Does he have? Yes, I think that's a Black Lantern ring on his finger. And now he's kind of fighting the Dark Metal Batman as this Black Lantern type Batman. If that was completely wrong, then I sincerely apologize. Why did I buy this figure? Because it came in a bundle with all of the other Dark Knight Metal figures, so I wouldn't have thought to have got it on its own. But it came with a bundle, and then when I opened them all up, I was like, wow, this is the strongest figure, easily. This is so cool. Again, a bat skull motorbike, I wouldn't have thought for a second that I need that in my collection. I'd be like, no, that's completely superfluous. Then I get it, and I'm like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. So guys, I adore this Batman, even though it's almost embarrassing how little I know about him. I know I should read more of the Dark Knight Metal stories, but right now I can just appreciate the sculpting. And this is an interesting little aside. So many people will message sometimes saying, well, why would you buy a figure when you don't even know anything about it? Well, because look at it. It looks cool. And also, when you say that, that's how I read your comments, okay? That's my salty voice. But yeah, I will buy a figure because it looks amazing on the shelf. If I don't know the full backstory, then believe me, I have a ridiculous imagination. I'll make up something fun. But this just looks absolutely terrific. I love the Hellbat, Dark Knight, Metal, Black Lantern Batman. Whatever his origin is, his current state is awesome. And that's good enough for me. You know, a Build-A-Figure that I think has kind of been lost over time or not really mentioned at all is the Hobgoblin, the Phil Urich Hobgoblin. He's got his hand out because normally there's a pumpkin bomb there, but he doesn't really grip it, so it will just fall and get lost. So I'm going to put that on the table, and we're going to look at Phil Urich. This is a character who I think people don't maybe think about so much because he's currently dead in the comics. He wasn't around for a long period of time. He was a staple villain in Dan Slott's Spider-Man run. And first of all, I love the fact that this is a good guy gone bad. And it wasn't a case of mind control or any sort of stupid stuff. It was just the character just evolved. He tried being a hero. It didn't work out for him. And eventually he was like, no, you know what? I'm going to break bad. Screw this. And he breaks bad big time as the Hobgoblin. And this Build-A-Figure really does him justice. I wouldn't have thought off the top of my head, oh, the Phil Urich Hobgoblin, that's a big oversized character. He's sort of average size, but the Bath does him justice. He's slightly taller than your average Marvel legend, but that's okay because he does have these huge big wings and he's wearing a suit. It kind of makes sense that he is bigger. The wings, it would be nice if you could articulate them a bit. They're just stuck on there, but that's okay. I'll forgive that because let's face it, when I do have wings, I want them to be as far as possible to make the most presence on the shelf, so that's fine. Also, I really love that his facial features and even the angles and the dynamics of the sculpting on the figure harken back to the actual comic book artwork. I think it was Humberto Ramos did this kind of design, or at least I associate him with drawing the Hobgoblin, and he actually has the more sort of angular, slightly kind of cartoony look to him, which is something I love about Marvel Legends, where they all will fit together on the shelf. They all have a certain uniform kind of look, but some will look slightly more cartoony and some will look slightly more realistic. And because it's only a small variation, they still work in the larger scheme of things. So also, the dude's got a flaming sword. I mean, hands down, that's gonna make him a winner. But then when you throw in everything else with the chainmail, the pouches at the other sides of his costumes, the buckles, the sides of the boots, the big heavy feet, and just the cackling looking goblin face, I really dig not Jason McIndale. What's his name? I've been saying it. Phil Urich. Whew. I really dig Phil Urich as the Hobgoblin, and I hope at some point we'll get him back in the comics, because come on, death is not a problem. Coming back from death is super easy, barely an inconvenience. So yeah, let's get some more Hobgoblin back in the Spider-Man comics.
So what you want to do is spend that dollar on something now, so that your parents think that it costs $10 to run a lemonade stand. So the dollar's a surplus. This is a surplus. We have to spend that $4,300 by the end of the day, or it'll be deducted from next year's budget. We should spend this money on a new copier, which we desperately need. Okay, break it down in terms of...
This is an interesting figure because opinions have been very divided, and by divided I mean me and everyone else. But I'm the one who came around on him eventually, and that is Strong Guy. I did not like this figure. I bought him because he is part of X-Force or X-Factor, sorry. He's part of X-Factor. He's a big staple of the 90s. I do remember him from reading about him in the comics, but I was like, I don't like this bath. The shoulder joints, there's so much space in the shoulder joints. Like, what's going on here? You couldn't have closed that gap anymore? He's got his teeny tiny little feet. Like, it's so difficult to stand. And then you know what happened? The viewers of Model Behaviour voted him the best figure of 2020. And I was like, what? I had to award this guy the best figure of 2020 due to everyone's votes. And I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. The first ever Christmas show of Model Behaviour, and you guys are making me give this guy the prize? And then you know what? Over the year, I softened on him. And then I'd see him on the shelf and I'd be like, he's a big, colourful, chunky boy. And now I look at him in my combined X-Force, X-Factor shelf and I'm like, you know what, strong guy? You're actually pretty cool. So I've really come around on him, probably because he is so unusual. For a Marvel legend to be so top heavy and then the small legs, yes, it can make him difficult to stand sometimes, but also it really just emphasizes the cartoony comic book look of him so well. Yes, I feel like there could be more shading, more wash on here because he does look quite plasticky. But at the same time, some people have painted his zip silver, and I'm like, well, that makes sense. And then I see a lot of comic book artwork, and it's actually, oh no, that zip is often just done yellow, so that's fine. Sometimes you don't need intense, minute detail. Sometimes you just need big, bright and bold, and this guy is big, bright and bold. I think I remember harkening back, the first time I ever heard about Strong Guy was I got a Fleer trading card with him, and I didn't know who he was, but it mentions on the back that he fought the Juggernaut in an airport and he absorbed all this power and he managed to win the fight, but it put him into a coma. And this was before I'd started ever reading comics. I was like 12, 13 at the time. And just hearing that little sort of backstory, I was like, wow, like these things are so deep. I want to know what's going on. So he kind of resonated with me like that. And then getting the figure like 30 years later, I think, you know what? The circle is complete. I kind of dig Strong Guy. This next figure, where is he? I don't know. Well, I'll tell you where he is. He's up on the shelf because he's too big for me to get down here. Actually, no, you know what? He deserves to be brought down. Hold that thought.
And now, for the mighty Megatron.
As you can see, I'm filming this one a little bit differently because I don't have the space behind my desk to even hold this guy in front of the camera.
Megatron, the leader of the Decepticons,
The MASO2, I believe, is the name of the figure. I will name him the most badass version of Megatron you are ever likely to find. I adore this guy. I did Prime in the last video, so of course I got to do Megatron. The fact that he scales with 1/12 sized figures, that's what's most amazing. You can pose him with your G.I. Joes or your Marvel Legends, and they work with the scale. It's incredible. So yeah, this guy has so much articulation. He's got the light up eyes, the light up cannon. His fingers individually will move and flex so you can have any kind of pose. There's so much movement in his ankles and his knees and the hips that you can get him in all sorts of poses, from the tall stoic one here to the big crazy sort of like Superman landing type poses, the superhero landing. There's so much you can do with this guy. You can remove his chest protector as well, and you've got the inside workings there. He looks kind of like the camera transformer. I forget the name of the 3 Decepticons that make up the camera, but those guys, that's what that reminds me of. But what basically I want to take away from this figure is just that he is amazing. There were rumors they were going to do a Soundwave version. I'm kind of glad they didn't, just because I would not have any room left with him and Prime and Galactus and the Sentinel. Even I'm willing to admit, this is almost getting silly, but I love it. And to wrap things up, let's go back to the Age of Apocalypse with X-Man, a figure that was kind of thrown in with the wave, but we really needed. We haven't had a decent X-Man figure for goodness only knows how long. And one of the things I love about this is because X-Man goes into the 616, so this works in 616 as well. But I'm always torn. I kind of want two X-Mans. I don't want to say X-Men because that's when you think X-Men, but X-Mans doesn't sound right. You know what I'm saying. Two Nate Greys is what I'm trying to get across. Because yes, he needs to go on the Age of Apocalypse shelf, but I have so many fond memories of him appearing in Amazing Spider-Man with Steve Skroce doing the artwork, which was absolutely stunning. Steve Skroce did the storyboards for The Matrix as well. They look incredible. It's such a shame that we seem to have lost so many great comic book artists to Hollywood. That's a pattern. If you actually go back and see, a lot of great comic book artists eventually get work doing storyboarding and stuff in Hollywood. And it's like, no! Give us back our artists! But hey, maybe we get some good films out of it. But X-Man looks terrific. He's basic. Again, with this wave from the Age of Apocalypse, wasn't big on accessories. This isn't his sonic blast, but it's kind of nice that the sonic spikes that he can fire in the comics, they're kind of circular, they kind of work like this, which is good, but really it's his flashing Cable style eye here that looks so great. So just like the Cable figure, it's molded into his eye. Looks really, really cool. And then you got the softer material on the jacket and just the ridiculously 90s kind of costume with the big old knee pads and the shoulder pads jacket. This feels like it fit in the Age of Apocalypse and it just works so well. When I was a kid, I wished I could have had, you know, the dyed, well not dyed, but the rogue style hair at the front, because I was like, that just looks so cool. And of course you know it's 90s because he has the boy band NSYNC curtain haircut too. So he screams mid-90s and I love him for that. I love him in my Age of Apocalypse set and I can't wait to add the next wave to go alongside him. And guys, that does it for the next 10 figures on the top 100 countdown. Before I finish though, I want to give another big thanks to Oliver Twisted Customs for my custom heads that he made. Absolutely incredible. And now, instantly out of date. Don't worry though, I am going to grow back the beard. I just fancied going clean shaven. So over the next month or two, I will start to resemble my action figure a bit more. But Oliver Twisted Customs, dude, thank you so much. These are absolutely amazing. I love them with all my heart. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you see here and you want to see more, then join the 6-1 Clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on a single episode. And also, if you want to doubly support the channel, you can go over to patreon.com/displaying model behavior and throw a few shekels my way, just like these absolute legends, these saviors of model behaviors did. Bless all of you. Thank you so much for the support. And while I'm doing Patreon shoutouts, I have a specific shoutout I want to make. I'm not even going to try and fudge this. I don't have the details in front of me, but I'm going to read them off now. So this is a special Patreon shout out to Chucklich over on Instagram. My patron, Zombie, asked me to say, you are a great inspiration as far as dioramas, model building and painting goes, so keep up the good work, brother. And that was my Patreon shout out. Thank you so much guys for the support. And look, I feel kind of bad because obviously the Patreon supporters get a lot of special benefits that a lot of other people don't. And I know that you have to give some kind of an incentive for joining, but at the same time it feels mean. So I'm going to share one of the benefits that the Patreon supporters get with the rest of you, okay? Normally it's only the supporters that know this, but I'm going to share this information with you, alright? When there's an emergency, call 912 in the States, okay? It's not 911 is just for everyone else. Patreon subscribers, it's 912. That's the real number in emergencies. I felt bad not sharing it with the rest of you guys.
Oh, and don't bother calling 911 anymore. Here's the real number.
Ooh. So there you go. That's a Patreon bonus for you right there. Guys, thank you so much for watching and putting up with my nonsense for another 25 minutes. And until next time, keep displaying model behavior.
Chill.
This is an interesting figure because opinions have been...
Time coffee. Big time coffee.